Hi, I'm Midge Shoemaker, and today is day 15 of my doing 100 days of YouTube videos and focusing on my writing. So, yay for day 15. Yay for day 15, 85 days to go. Doing my little countdown. Should have done my writing before I went to work, but I waited until after work, and then I ended up working later than I wanted to. So I didn't do as much working on my writing today as I wanted to. But I am running into more issues with myself and my writing. Um, my problem is I'm going back to the Fall of Espenglanja, and I was reading through it trying to find one of the characters' points of views because I decided to write it from that character's point of view. And then going back through and reading my stuff, I'm like, dang it, I actually put all of this description into my book. The original time, I just took it all out because I thought it was supposed to be better without all the description, but then people are like, we can't figure out what your kingdom's about, we can't figure out all these people and powers are, and I was like, and I described them so well the first time I wrote it. I just wrote it from everybody's point of view. I didn't put the little paragraph spacings and all of those things in there, so I'm kind of torn between the idea of just going back to the original one, but having to change it so it's still only from 3 characters' points of views, because I like a lot of my descriptive words in there. So it'd kind of be like doing a revision instead of a complete rewrite. Or I could continue with the whole rewrite, but I want to go back and get a lot of the descriptive stuff that I did. So I'm having this issue where I'm like, I actually liked my writing. I actually like what I did like 10 years ago, maybe better than the stuff that I've been doing this past year. So maybe not necessarily better. I mean, I have learned a lot about how to write and do things. It's just that a lot of the feedback I'm getting back is that they're not understanding or seeing the description of the location where I'm at. And that was the whole point of writing the whole book of Linoia and the Teachers and Powers. And I was like, and then I'm going back and reading my old book and I'm like, and it's right there. I took it all out and it's right there. I was reading that tonight and I was like, man, I just keep making more work for myself. I need to figure out how to stop making more work for myself and figuring out what I'm going to keep, what I'm going to let go of, and how to rearrange it so that it actually makes sense to a reader, because it makes sense to me. And I literally can start reading my old book and just get caught up into the book. And I'm like, wait, I have to remind myself that I'm looking for something specific. I have to remind myself that I'm not keeping this version of the book. So having some issues with that one tonight. So I need to try to figure that out. I did do some copy pasting, wrote a couple of sentences so I could say that I wrote something. I'm like, I'm going to say I did it. I'm going to do it regardless. I looked at it, I copied, I pasted, I moved some stuff around. I found some more descriptions of things that I forgot that I had that I either want to incorporate into the new stuff or that I want to go back to the old stuff with. I'm still deciding. It's going to take me forever to figure out this book. I want to figure out the book. I think it will be a good book as soon as I can figure it out. I thought it was a good book the first time I wrote it. I was very proud of that book. But like I said, it's from every character's point of view, and it doesn't work that way. So I need to figure out how to revamp it, but I still like my story. So trying to keep my story, keep my details, and just change the points of views and take out the scenes that I don't have main characters' points of views in. So having some fun with that one tonight. I did work on revising Linoia before work, Linoia and the Teachers of Powers. And I did message my one friend because I was like, I didn't see the changes. And it's like, oh, I didn't highlight the changes. I just made a few of them. And I was like, she could send it. And then she said she could send it to me again. And I was like, no point in sending it to me again if you didn't highlight the changes, because then the only way I know what you changed or edited or commented on is if I just compare it to the one that I sent her versus the one that she sent back to me. And I was like, yay, I get to read every word for between 2 books versions of that book, plus the one that my other friend is doing, plus however other many versions people send back to me. I was like, yay. But I did find myself wanting to add more descriptive stuff. I did read a comment that I haven't quite got to yet, but my friend that I beta rated her book for, that's beta rated mine for Linoia, she made some comment like the first 2 chapters I don't need, or I could just use them as a prologue or something. And I was like, sad face, I like those chapters. And I went back and I added more detail to those chapters to try to like say the name of the kingdom and things like that. And then today I went back and I added like some of the description when she was being dragged away. Spoiler alerts again. But anyway, and some more description about like where she gets taken and things like that to try to, make it more her point of view, more the descriptive stuff and the stuff that I wrote in my old version of the book. So I'm like, I'm perfectly capable of adding all that description. I think it's just not that I have a bad mentor, I don't. It's just that when I was working with her, she was like, take out the description and do like the conversation and the words and the whatever. So, but every author, every person has a different writing style, a different way of doing things. And I keep trying to conform mine to everyone else's. And I'm trying to find the balance and figure out what my writing style is, what works for my books, for me to tell the story, but also something that makes sense to the readers, to you, to the people that are going to read my books, because I don't want it to just make sense to me. That works for me, but then nobody else understands my book, and I want to be able to communicate what I'm writing. So I'm trying to look at the feedback reasonably, but I'm still at the same time trying to be true to myself and my story. So trying to figure out what can I add to make it better. And of course, it's still my words, it's still my writing, it's still my ideas, or maybe they're ideas that God is giving me, not necessarily all my own ideas. But it's kind of cool to see that I still liked my old writing. I went to a writer's conference several years ago, and there was one published author there that he was talking about his books. And he said the first book that he wrote was like trash. And, he was able to take a year to work on a book and come up with something much better. And I don't know what happened to his first book, but he said it was completely trash. And I'm grateful that mine's not. I don't know. Maybe it is because I can't publish it, but I don't think it's complete trash. I think there's still good stuff in it that I can take, that I can use, that I can just rephrase a few things. It's just a different writing style. But I think it still works. And there's some stuff I can do to tighten up the sentences so that it's not like run on or redundant, that sort of a thing. But I think there's still a lot of really good stuff in that story, because if there wasn't really good stuff in my story, I wouldn't get sucked into it every time I read it and forget what I was working on. So I think there's still really good stuff in my story. I just think that I did it from too many characters' points of views. I didn't understand how to tighten sentences a little bit, where to put the paragraph breaks, how long they should be, because it's all different now than it was when I was growing up. Like, they keep changing how to do stuff, and I didn't understand grammar and English and all that crap when I was growing up, and now they went and changed it all, and I was like, I really don't understand it now. So I'm like, because when I was growing up, paragraphs were like 5 or 6 sentences, and now they're telling me they're like 3 or 4 sentences, and I was like, so now it's a half a paragraph? It's a paragraph. Okay, so I'm just trying to figure all of this out. And every time you change who's talking, you add a paragraph. So you change paragraphs. So I was like, which I didn't do, because I'm like, it's not 6 sentences yet. So it's still a paragraph, not when you're writing a book. When you're writing a book, they get their own paragraph for their own sentence, their own word. And you can actually have a conversation without having to tag each one. I've seen it, other people have done it. I haven't done it. But you can tag without having to tag each sentence. And by tagging, I mean without saying he said, she said, or so-and-so made a face and said this, or whatever description. You're not putting some kind of description or a person name to indicate who's speaking, because you've got 2 people speaking, 2 people that have been introduced into the scene. And then whoever starts the conversation, that's their line. The next paragraph is the other person's, and then they alternate. And hopefully, and if I say 2 things in a row, you just don't separate the paragraph. You just, whatever. So each paragraph, basically, or space between, is the next person's conversation or comment. So you don't have to say he said, she said, he said, she said, back and forth, or come up with other words for said, like responded or asked or growled or mumbled or whatever other words, because I was trying to do the he said, she said thing, and my mentor was like, no, don't use the word said. So I've tried to take said out of all of my books. And then I read my friend's book. I did the beta reading for her book, and she said quite a few times. Like that, I think that was the only thing she used. She didn't use any other words, maybe once or twice, but she used said the whole time. And I was like, see, what's wrong with using said? Like, I totally get this person said this, they said that. We say that when we talk. So again, I think it comes down to writing style, and I know that people's writing style have changed. There's a whole fast food reading thing, and not everyone wants as much description because they just want to get emotionally attached to the characters. But all the people I know, I send it to them, and they're like, we don't understand where they're at because you didn't describe anything. You're just having conversations. And I was like, yep. So now I'm going back and I'm like, okay, I did the describing and the conversations, and then I did the conversations. So now how do I put the two together and do the describing and the conversations? And which descriptions and which conversations do I keep for my story? And which ones do I have to let go of because there's just too much. And I'm not going to make a story for every single character in that book. Because I was like, gotta say, I can't. And I'm like, oh, but I can. I'm not going to. I'm just not going to. But I can. So anyway, I was just kind of looking at that today. But it made me grateful that I still had some really good writing, stuff that I liked writing. I enjoy my own writing when I go back and read it. And I'm grateful for the ideas that just, flow to work through Lanoya revisions. And I think I did the first chapter yesterday, and I made a couple more revisions to the first chapter today. And then I got through chapters 2 and 3, and I stopped on chapter 4. So I like that. And yes, I know my friend was telling me my chapters are too short. I've had a couple people say that, but my mentor was saying you want the shorter chapters because if people are flipping through a book, they're more inclined to keep reading if the chapter's really short than if the chapter's really long. And having read books, I can say that that's true. And sometimes I'll get halfway through a chapter, I'm like, this is a really long chapter, and I hate stopping in the middle of a chapter, but I'm just kind of like, there's a breaking point, and I'm just going to stick it in here and try to figure out where I'm at later because I'm too tired or too whatever. So I'm trying not to make my chapters too long. I originally made them all like 10 pages, like 10-page chapters, and I had 24 chapters, a 240-page book or something like that. I think it's like 218 or something, the one that I found. Anyway, it was a long book because I did that. And not all of my chapters were 10 pages, but they were pretty close. I don't think I can quite find that original one anyway. But anyway, lots and lots of writing, lots and lots of revisions. And now I'm trying to keep mine somewhere between 3 and 6 pages long, I guess. But I have some that only end up being 1 or 2 pages, and that's my dilemma, is I don't want to combine a 2-page chapter with a 6-page chapter because then it's an 8-page chapter. That, and I have this thing about even numbers. I really like even numbers, so if I can keep even numbered chapters. So if I combine the first and second chapter, I want to combine some other chapter along the way so that it's all even numbered chapters. And I know that some books have odd numbered chapters, and that's just how it works out. But I like even numbers for some reason, so I'm willing to add an extra chapter or take out something or combine chapters to make it even. I'm so weird with my numbers and even numbers and things like that maybe that's something I need to let go of. I don't really care about the total page numbers. I don't care if that's odd, but I want the chapters to be even for some random reason. Very random, very, very random. But I am grateful that I am doing my writing and my revisions and trying to make it like my non-negotiable things, even though I'm falling asleep. So I need to, again, kind of try to work on my schedule a little bit, or because I did have a little bit of time before I went to work. I had like half an hour to an hour that I could have been working on my book or doing something else, and I chose to play games on my phone instead. Still doing a lot of that, just trying to avoid dealing with all of the emotions, anxiety, all the things that I have to do. And it just seems like the more things I have to do, the less I want to do them, which I don't know why. I always seem to have the opposite response to things, because the more things I have to do, the more I should be up and going and doing, like go, go, go. And that just kind of overwhelms me. And I'm like, no, no, no. And I just don't. And I know that's the wrong response. And I'm trying to change that response. I'm trying to do better. I am doing better. I keep saying trying like I can't do it, but I can do it. It just takes time. It's a process. And I know that I'm working on this process and it's getting a little bit better, a little bit easier, but I'm still having a hard time letting go of the old stuff. And my default setting is to avoid things. So I'm working on that. But I am grateful for all the things that I was able to get done today and for my writing. And I'm grateful that I chose to still work on The Fall of Espenglanja, even though I spent all that time revising Lanoya and the Teachers of Powers, because part of me was going to be like, I was just going to justify that my revisions count as my writing, which they could. Technically, I'm still working on my own personal writing. I'm not revising someone else's book or beta reading someone else's book or reviewing someone else's stuff. This is my stuff that I'm doing. But I think I kind of like the idea of doing the two together, because if I revise Lanoya and write The Fall of Espenglanja, then I have 2 books, it's done at the same time. And then I just have the one book to send out to beta readers. I have the other book to hopefully send to editor, and ta-da, then I will have, books in process, and then I can start the next book in my series, decide which book that's going to be while I revise God's Hand in My Life, that sort of a thing. And then I can do those 2 simultaneously, and at which point I should be ready to send one off and have revisions for something else and start another whatever. So I can just keep working on 2 at a time. But I may get burned out working on 2 at a time, and I may have to just do 1 at a time and just be okay with that. I think it'll be a lot faster if I just worked on Illinois and the Teachers of Powers to get that one revised versus trying to rewrite The Fall of Espinglandia. But I don't know. I'm being stubborn right now, and at some point I might change my mind and say I'm done because, I'm only 15 days in, and I'm already kind of, wearing myself thin a little bit. But I'm trying. I did get up to my alarm today, so that was good, working on my schedule of things. So just baby steps. I did go to work earlier. I just ended up staying out as late tonight because just the way my night turned out for me. But it turned out okay, and I am grateful for that. I'm just, I think I'm just tired and rambling, so I apologize. I still just need to write in my journal so I can go to bed tonight. But I am grateful that I'm able to make these videos, grateful that I can still find things to be grateful for, and know that there's still stuff for me to work on and stuff for me to change. And it's going to probably be a long time before I'm totally willing to face all of my emotions and stop avoiding things, and somehow get to that balance where I'm like, it's okay to play games occasionally as long as it's not interfering with doing my other work, and as long as I'm not using it to avoid doing other stuff, because it's hurting me whenever I do that. Because if I'm tired already and then I stay up to play my games because I haven't finished my stuff, then I'm like, okay, then I'm just depriving myself of sleep, and that's just dumb. And then my stuff either doesn't get done, or it's rushed or not as good, or I don't do as much of it as I could. And today was one of those nights where I'm like, I just want to come home and go to bed, and I don't care about it. And not that I didn't care. I did care about my writing. I did care about my YouTube video. That's why I'm doing it. It's just I was so tired. I just wanted to use my tired as an excuse to just go to bed. And instead, I played games because I knew I had to stay awake. But I wished I hadn't done that. But I didn't play for that long, I don't think. Anyway, maybe like half an hour, maybe an hour. Wished I hadn't, because then I would be in bed asleep right now, which is where I wish I was right now. But I am grateful that I made this a priority. I'm grateful that I chose to still do this, that I didn't just give up because I was tired. I didn't let tired be my excuse. I also was reminded again today when I was working and I ran out of food. I didn't take enough snacky stuff with me, and I was getting a little bit of a headache, and I was like, oh. And then I started just being ornery about everything. I was like, okay, I need to stop. Seriously, I need to stop. I don't know why I'm being so ornery. And then I was like, oh yeah, I do, because I haven't had anything to eat, and I'm hungry, and I'm tired, so it's time to go home. And I knew as soon as I got something to eat, I would feel better. And it was true. As soon as I got something to eat, I felt better. I was a little bit more awake, but then I started falling asleep because I'm just really tired. So reminders to myself that I need to take better care of myself, because if I take care of myself, I have more energy, and I'm better able to do all of the other things that I want to accomplish, like my writing. So lots of other things that I have to seem to work on in order to do the one thing that I want to do. So there's that too. Anyway, I am grateful I made these videos, and grateful you guys are watching. And if you like, hit like, subscribe, share if you think it'll help someone else. And hope you have a great day full of gratitude.